Hey, kia ora koutou, Marky here with a croaky voice now. I've been talking a lot, but I'm on a roll. Once I start, don't want to stop. And I'm steaming up. I'm in my deluxe studio, which is starting to steam up and get cold. So I'm gonna take some remedial measures on that. So there might be a slight background hiss, which is the fan. Oh, that's too loud, isn't it? So, part 3, your questions about autism, and I guess mainly we've been talking about higher functioning autism. But that's the one that I'm most involved in, really. Although I do work with people with lower functioning autism as well. It's not a nice way to call it, is it? Lower functioning, but you know what I mean. So, Richard Monroe, who's a great supporter on here, thank you for the question. So you asked me 2 questions, one of which I didn't know the answer to. Neither of which I know the answer to, frankly, because in terms of the vaccination debate, that was your question. You know, what evidence have I seen on either side of the debate, really? So this is about. I shouldn't use that V word actually, because I've done other videos about how there is a lot of censorship on YouTube, and words that begin with V of this nature often attract that kind of censorship. So this is about the MMR, measles, mumps, rubella, isn't it? So it's like a combined vaccine that's given to children, all in one shot, one-stop shop, one big hit of everything. God, I remember being terrified of the idea of injections as a child. I was really horrified about the idea. And I remember, what did I have? What is it? You have the thing in your left arm, don't you? It was another childhood vaccine. So this will make sense to people in the UK of a certain generation. A vaccination that you have in your arm. And it's like a kind of almost like a kind of cork-shaped thing that they kind of press against your arm, which has got little needles in it, and it leaves a scar, like a round scar with little bits within it, which and a very clever nurse. I wasn't sure whether I was that was it, because that was TB, wasn't it? Because I was working at the time with a high TB risk population. I thought it'd probably be a good idea to get a vaccination against that, and I was there was an occupational health department which would give you that, and I asked them about it, and a very clever nurse actually spotted the scar on my upper arm, which I couldn't see. She said, "Oh no, you don't need to worry because you've had it." So that was kind of quite cool. But I am going off on a wild tangent. Yes, so many. It's not a debate I've followed closely, I have to admit, but I've been aware of. So many people believe that it causes autism, or something that looks like autism, something that presents like autism. Now, I don't have a problem with the concept that autistic kind of traits can have a physical, biological cause, because I think autism is something that's incredibly complex, and there's some weird things, like, for example, there are certain physical illnesses that correlate really strongly with autism. So I think certainly there are, it's not beyond question that some kind of physical event, illness, virus, trauma, maybe even seizure, could leave somebody to present in an autistic way. However, whether that's the same thing or whether it's a kind of pseudo-autism, I don't know. You can have the same kind of presentation with a different cause. So I don't know. So I'm getting to the very outer limits of my knowledge with these ones. So Richard, you've really stretched me with your questions. So if you talk to scientists, okay, which may or may not be a good idea, they will tell you that there is overwhelming evidence that the MMR does not cause autism or pseudo-autism. And if you talk to people people that belong to lobby groups or certain groups, or even a large proportion of the public, they will tell you otherwise. And I've worked with people who their parents have told me that they were they're presenting with very clear kind of autism type symptoms, but their parents told me that they completely changed after having had that injection. So for me, the jury is out, and I guess I've talked about this in other videos, and I want to talk about it some more. And I did a written article about it, which I posted onto my LinkedIn. It was called "The Over Appliance of Science," and I think the thing is that science is being raised up as this great god. It's interesting. A lot of kind of scientific people kind of talk about being atheists and sometimes being very anti-religion, but I'd say actually science is as much a religion as anything else, because people believe in the scientific method. Now, the thing about science is it's one way of looking at the world, and it's a very important way of looking at the world. So I'm not knocking science. I think science is vital and very important, and there should be more funding going into science, I think. But science is just one lens. It's one way of looking at the world, and there are things within this universe which science does not illuminate. It illuminates some things very well, some things it doesn't. Sometimes it just asks the wrong questions. Sometimes the science isn't done in the right way. I think some of the scientific approaches to autism, for example, like the screening questionnaires for diagnosing autism, are terrible. They're absolutely rubbish. And I've talked about that in other places. So I have a very open mind, and I think we should be skeptical about science. We shouldn't see science as this amazing, this infallible route to truth, because science isn't. I mean, if you look at, the way science is reported in the press is very misleading. Sometimes they talk about something being proved or disproved, whereas actually if you look at research, you'll find that some studies indicate one thing, some studies indicate the opposite, and just because a study comes along that indicates the opposite of the last study doesn't mean that something's been disproved or proved. So science is very fallible, and I think it also has become very arrogant. And don't get me started on psychology, because I think psychology has started to kid itself that it's a science when it's not. And basically the psychologists that are going through, that are being churned out, these days, are basically statisticians. They're people that understand how to do research projects and how to tick boxes. And they laugh at people like Freud, who actually had original and free thought, because it's not evidence-based and it can't be replicated in the lab. But psychology is a study of the psyche. You can't look at the mind under a microscope. There are some things that's very that science has been very helpful in unraveling in psychology, and I certainly wouldn't argue to take the scientific component out of psychology. But I think it's become over relied upon, and I think free thinking, theorizing, philosophy, lots of things should be informing psychology like it used to, rather than just pretending that it's a science, because it's not a science. It's an area of study in which there is a scientific element. But there's like physics. Physics is a science. Physics, is you can measure things very clearly in physics, but you can't measure things very clearly in psychology, because you're talking about very subtle, nuanced inner experiences that people can't always communicate. But anyway, don't get me started on that. Go and read my article if you're interested in that, or I might do another video on that. So, so basically, I have a very open mind. And I believe we should be a bit more tolerant of different people's opinions. It's like with this whole subject now. when we get on to a certain illness that begins with C that's been going around at the moment, and we get onto the inoculation issue around there, that's going to become even more polarised, and people that are opposed to this are being scapegoated and being made out as if they're mad. And likewise, those people kind of think that the people that believe in it are sheep or sheeples, and are following blindly and being led into some kind of conspiracy. I think let's not get in these kind of extreme polarized kind of dug-in positions. I think maybe who knows who's right. And if somebody has a problem with the word that begins with V and is opposed to that, let's not scapegoat them and vilify them and make them out to be kind of extreme, weird, terrible people. That it's a kind of valid view. They might be right, they might be wrong. I don't know. Obviously, there's consequences to not going down the V route for individuals and for society. So it's an important issue, but it shouldn't be this polarized name calling. Extreme issue where there's no conversation and there's no dialogue, and the reason I'm talking in code now is because it is actually censored on YouTube. YouTube don't like people talking about this kind of thing. If they pick up that I'm an anti-V, they would reduce the visibility of this video. Not that my video has that much visibility at the moment anyway, but so that's sorry Richard, that's a very long-winded answer. So yes, there's lots of scientific evidence and studies that say that there is no connection between autism and MMR vaccine, but there's lots of anecdotal evidence that suggests the direct opposite, and I've kind of been exposed to a little bit of both. And this is my stance on most things, really. I very much avoid being polarised. I don't like. I think it's people that kind of just sort of blindly believe everything, and people that are kind of routinely skeptical. They're both kind of different sides of the same coin. I like to keep a very open mind on most. There are some things where I've got stronger views, but we know so little. We think we know so much, but actually we know very little. There's some things, I think, where it's possible to acquire a lot of very clear and definite knowledge, but most things in life are grey areas, I think this is where I do get a bit tinfoil hat, is that I do believe that the powers that be are the media, and probably some more kind of higher and sinister players behind the media do want to polarize people. They do want to get people entrenched so that there's no debate, there's no discussion. There's you're either a redneck or a snowflake, and that's insane. We're all human beings, and it's not like that. That's not the reality. But there we go, a very long-winded, round the houses, indirect way of saying, I don't know. Sorry. I don't know if you managed to sit through the end of this video, but respect and salute to you if you did. So, okay, so that's part 3. I'm not going to do any more on this questions series unless people ask me questions, in which case I will answer them or say that I don't know. In a very long-winded way, in the way that I always do. I don't kind of make it up if I don't know the answers to things. And like I said, I don't see myself as an expert on autism. I kind of hope to be one day, because I'm learning all the time. But I hope you found that helpful. So other videos that I've done, so I've done a series on social skills. I've called it Social Skills for Aspies and Askies, I think. I've done stuff on neurodiversity in general. I've done lots of stuff on ADHD and the 3 different kinds of ADHD. I've done stuff on the effects of ADHD on sexual behaviour and sexual, not sexual orientation, but sexual expression, I guess, sexual interests. So there's a whole bunch of these videos, and I've done some stuff on PDA. There's a whole bunch of these videos, and they're all on a playlist called Neurodiversity. So if you go into my playlist and look for Neurodiversity, it's all there. But I'm always happy to talk about more you know, talk about this stuff some more, and some of those series, you know, they're open-ended. I'm going to be, you know, at some point making more. So the series on social skills for Aspies and Askies, as I called it, that's something that, you know, when I feel so inspired, I'll add to. Okay, so I'm going to quit this one just at the 15-minute mark. Thank you for enduring this video. Please hit the like button and bestow lots of aroha upon my channel. Rangi Mari.